So the big question is this: how are real estate investors who don't have a ton of free time, don't have access to off-market deals, and didn't start life on third base, how do we grow a real estate business conservatively to support our families, finally leave the corporate rat race, and build a legacy? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Ed Matthews, and this is Real Estate Underground.
This is the Real Estate Underground podcast show number 89.
Greetings and salutations, Real Estate Undergrounders. This is Ed Matthews with the Real Estate Underground podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today is yet another awesome and really interesting conversation. With me here is Deborah Razo. She is with Razd Development, as well as the thing we're going to talk about a lot, being a girl dad, is the Women's Real Estate Network, or WREN. And so, Deborah, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for your time today. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, not as much as I do. So in terms of your background and your history, I know you've done a lot of different things and been successful in a lot of different levels in a whole bunch of different vocations and careers. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got here, and then we'll
Sure.
dive in.
Yeah, sure. I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, so that isn't new to me. But real estate was kind of new to me. I've only been a real estate investor for about the last 13 years. And I'll just be honest with you, it wasn't even on my radar, like, say, 15 years ago. I had, another company. I've had multiple companies, but I had an opportunity to start over. I don't know if you or any of your listeners have had that kind of opportunity.
I think we all have it at some level, but I also think I think I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe somebody listening is going through that opportunity right now with COVID and different things. Sure. And I think it's different for everybody. Sometimes it's a divorce or the death of a loved one. Right. For me, it was a car accident. And it was basically, I was a passenger in an SUV and the tire blew and we lost control of the car and it went into the dirt and the rim of the tire dug into the dirt and we flipped. So we were driver's side first. So I was a passenger and I got crushed. And I was airvac to a hospital because I had a head wound that was bleeding out and they needed to stitch that up. And while at the hospital, I was told that I had a broken neck. So it was really a huge turning point for me. I'm A-okay now, but it was a year of healing. And, when you're doing that kind of healing, you have a lot of time to think.
You bet.
And really think about, I thought about, am I living my best life? Am I really living the life I dreamt of? You have an experience like that and you think life is short. And, I'm not going to waste any more time here on this planet unless I'm just really living the best life I can. Right. I was fortunate in that my brother came out and helped take care of me. And by the way, I was a single parent. I had 2 kids in high school at the time. Wow. And, I had my own businesses, but honestly, I had actually created jobs for myself. Like, I wasn't a business owner, I was a business operator. And so I really started realizing I wanted passive income. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to have time with my family, time rich,
absolutely true freedom.
Yeah, true freedom. Exactly. And I was like, how do I get that? So I really literally started Googling passive income. And there's a lot of stuff that comes up, royalties comes up and real estate and real estate. Oh, yeah.
Have you heard real estate?
And I had read the little purple Bible, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, so I went back and dug it out and I read it again. And I'm like, I need to get me some, And my brother knew I wanted to make these changes. And my brother had been associated with the Tony Robbins Association. He'd gone through a lot of their courses. And he said, maybe when you're well, and you're ready to make these changes, you should go to some of this Robbins stuff. Yep, great idea. And I did, because I knew I had to change here first. I had to change my mindset first. Right. And then figure out, how to do the rest. I started educating in real estate. And honestly, I think I was educating for at least another year after that before I actually even did anything, right? I think for a lot of people that are just getting into real estate, there's a lot of mental barriers. It feels risky and I don't have the money. And, there's all kinds of things that come up, barriers that come up.
Right.
I finally decided that I had a mentor that told me to get an investment philosophy. And I was raised, I'm first generation American, both my parents, very blue collar. And let me tell you, I wasn't raised with an investment philosophy. If there was an philosophy, it was like, keep your head down, work hard, pay your bills.
Right. For 40 years, then die.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Now, I think from my accident, I was really clear that my outcome was cash flow, right? I wanted that passive income, but I was in a situation where I didn't have any income. And I was like, okay, I need to do something to generate income. And so I chose flipping. And I'll just say, flipping is a job for anybody that's out there that's wanting
Nothing passive about it.
There is nothing passive about it. And I think sometimes you either love it or hate it. And I love it. In fact, I still flip every once in a while because I just can't pass up a deal. And I have, I need a 12-step program for it.
It's so funny you say that. So we dialed back our flipping to focus on multifamily at Clark Street. But I tell people all the time, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. Flipping is my cocaine. Like I love it, all of it.
It's ridiculous. I'll be on my way to a tile place or Home Depot, and I'm like excited inside.
Me too. Totally.
Yeah.
Incorrigibly excited. Yeah, exactly. Totally. Yeah.
But luckily I was good at it. And so I would flip a property. And then after, I made some money that way, I was like, okay, it's time for me to buy and get that cash flow. And through a series of events, I realized I wasn't going to be able to cash flow in Los Angeles. I'm from Los Angeles, by the way. And I wasn't going to be able to cash flow in Los Angeles. It's really hard to cash flow here. It's an appreciation market, not really a cash flow market.
Right.
So I started, once again, Google, my best friend. I started Googling, high cash flow markets and started researching them. And I ended up buying a single family house in Memphis, Tennessee.
Great market.
I once again, it took me a long time to just get in that mindset to get going and do that transaction. But then once I did it, I'm like, oh, wait a second, this isn't so hard. And I'm already getting cash flow on it. And I think I probably bought 3 more that first year.
Right. That's awesome.
So that was my routine for a while. And I was accumulating properties and then stuff happens again, right? My debt to income ratio became topsy-turvy.
Right.
And I realized, I'm not going to be able to sustain this. I'm not going to get to where I need to be in this realm. So I had to start looking for other things. And luckily, I was still flipping and I was building on that education and building on that experience. And during that time, I actually started the Women's Real Estate Network. And honestly, I started it because I was going through a hard time in real estate. A bunch of the hedge funds had come into Los Angeles and they were buying up all those single family homes that normally flippers would get. Right. And I was putting out offer after offer after offer and not getting anything. And I was really beating my head against the wall. And if anybody here has ever gone to a regular, real estate club, you know that it's about 60 to 80% men and the other, 20 to 40% women, depending on the club. And I was just really wanting to surround myself with other women. And I asked some other women to come and have brunch with me. And that was the beginning of that. And so those women, I started seeing them on a regular basis. We opened up our homes and we started meeting, and there's usually wine involved. And, we were exchanging resources. Do you need I need an attorney for a tenant I have. I need a foundation guy. I need, and it would just became something. And then we started a meetup because I realized there was a whole group of women who didn't know these women, that
Mm-hmm.
powerhouses and who were such resources. And that's how WREN started. And next thing I know, we have 12 chapters across the US and things are going amazing. And I was up at our Seattle chapter and I met a woman developer. And that just changed. That's rocked my world. I've never met a woman developer before. And she
a unicorn.
Yeah, I said, gosh, you don't meet women developers. It's so great to hear you talk. And she said, oh, you're a flipper, right? And I said, yeah. And she goes, I used to be a flipper. Developing is so much easier. And I'm like, how could developing be easier?
Everything's square, everything's level, everything's plumb, right?
Right. Well, and she's like, it's the front work, right? When you're getting the permitting, when you're going through all that process, she's like, it's a lot of details. But when you start to build, it's ground up, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. And it opened my eyes to me being able to develop. And so next thing you know, I'm looking for partners in that realm. And so I started developing here in Los Angeles. And I think for WREN, that's one of the things it does, right? Like it's great for us to go to real estate clubs and see successful men in the market. And Lord knows I've gained a lot of education, great education from other men. But to see somebody you identify with, if you're a woman, you identify with women, and to see how she's balancing children and aging parents and the dog and the relationship as well as a business, it really opens up the possibilities for you. And that's why I started WREN.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, when you see someone who looks like you, has your responsibilities, has your perspective on the world, at least in some way, it starts to break down that barrier of belief, right? Because you're like, okay, well, this person who is my age, she looks just like me. She's got similar responsibilities. When you see that, you start to realize, not only can I do this, but I deserve to do this, right?
I do. And that there's an opening. It's possible for me. I can, I can walk in, I can see myself walking in her shoes, right?
Right. Exactly.
And I know it's the same. Men are the same. They mentor with people, other men that are like-minded. I mean, it's not any different than that, other than, we're women and we do things a little differently. We have a different style, so to speak.
Definitely put. We tend to hire, so at Clark Street, we tend to hire women because, I live in a house of women, right? We have, let's see, my wife, my 2 daughters, 3 dogs, all female. I am literally the only source of actual testosterone in that entire building. But the thing that I've learned is that, I years ago, I asked my wife, Patricia, who's an accountant by trade, I said, I'd love for you to come work with me, not for me, but with me. She kind of smiled and she goes, you and I work very differently. And I don't know that would work. I'm like, okay, well, I respect that. I'm crushed, but I expect that. I respect that because, what she recognized is that, the reason that our marriage works so well is the exact reason why I would have driven her crazy at the office. Right. We're very much a yin and yang kind of couple where I'm she's the person who keeps the trains running and everybody on track. And I'm the one that, tries really hard to disrupt all that with, hey, wait a minute, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And,
I recently heard a comedian talk about that because I'm the same way. I'm like very much the dreamer, right?
Yeah, same.
And my husband's very much the feet on the ground, patient, methodical, right? And to me, it was like, you can't have 2 dreamers in a relationship. You wouldn't have a house by the end of the day.
Right. So true. So true. Yeah. So in terms of real estate, I mean, obviously you could have done anything, but what was it about real estate? I mean, I get that you love it. I get that the flipping is fun, right? But there are a lot of businesses that are fun. So, someone as smart and as accomplished and with your vision, you could have done anything. You could have been, you could have bought a franchise. You could have bought, a cleaning service or home improvement company or whatever. But why real estate in particular?
Stay with us. We'll be right back. A motivated seller just filled out your web form. If you call back within 5 minutes, you're nearly 4 times more likely to get that seller appointment. But delay your follow-up by even just 10 minutes? Forget it. You're toast. Ella Vista Connect calls that lead back in 60 seconds, qualifies them, and schedules your meeting. Find out how much slow follow-up is costing you. Free calculator at ellavista.com/underground.
I think real estate was the first thing in my mind because it kept popping up for passive income. You got to I'm going to leverage where I was coming from. And where I was coming from was a place of life is short and I want to make the most out of it. And at that time, I was 45. And to go through all your savings and to be set back like that at that time, two kids that were getting ready to go to college, right?
Yeah.
You have your life on this trajectory thinking it's projected to go a certain way. And, when that's interrupted, it really gives you that opportunity to think about it. And I think that it was really great for me because what it did was it provided leverage for my level of motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't looking at dabbling.
Right. Well, it was like, the old story of Cortez when he arrived in the New World, he burned his boats and found that his sailors were highly motivated to make it work. Right.
Right. And I think sometimes, if you're not, whatever that motivation is, whatever you want real estate to do for you, you've got to really leverage yourself because it's not an easy business. And I'm not talking, it's easy as far as mechanics go. Like I can tell you how, or you could figure out how to put in an offer on something, but are you going to put in 10 lowball offers a week to get that property that you want to get so that you can make the cash flow you want to make? That's a mindset. That's a different set of, and I've recently, I always say in REN, this is about transformation because the person that you are right now is not necessarily going to be the person that you are when you get that whatever that goal is, that passive income goal or that,
Guaranteed, right? Because your perspective is going to change. I mean, obviously your financial world will change. But I also think that just the accomplishment of doing that will give you that burst of confidence that will throw your shoulders back and, you're more likely to take on projects because been there, done that.
And the confidence that you'll start to gain. And it's interesting because in women in particular, I don't know if you know this, Ed, but statistically, we are actually better investors. As far as returns go, usually our returns are higher than men's. But statistically, we don't go for big jumps. We have a hard time taking big risks. So when the price tag is high, like a house, like, apartment complex, like a development, it's a lot more for us to move forward on. Where men, I guess maybe it's the testosterone. I don't know what it is. Men have an easier time with that. And in REN, we talk about it in the form of confidence, right? It's like, like women know when there's a good deal. It's not about not knowing when there's a good deal. It's about taking action on that. Right. And so we have a saying in REN, like, you can borrow my confidence. Like I love that. Before you. So borrow my confidence and go put in that offer, girl. You know what I mean? Right. But you have to have some of that support behind you, whether it's in a mentor, whether it's a networking organization, because this business can be tenacious. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have dreamers like us.
Right. Right, exactly. But the thing is that when you go to the lumberyard, you go to Home Depot, or you go to the supply house, as a woman, you get treated differently. I mentor a bunch of folks, and actually most of them are women. And I'll get a phone call from I got one from my friend Stephanie several months ago, and she was like, "Yeah, this guy at the supply house was telling me this," and my response was, "Well, the fact is that in this business, there are a lot of people who don't appreciate the fact that women have gotten into the real estate investment game, and they tend to be a little bit rude. And so my advice to you would be, tell them to, very nicely, tell them to shove it and tell them to go get the thing you need. Right. And she, finished that project and made, very good money, and I was more than happy for her. And, but the fact is that, there's a bias, and you've got to overcome it and I think there's at least two layers to it. I'm curious what you think. There's the shock of, wow, this guy this person is disrespecting me. But then it's also as you were saying earlier, the confidence of, and I don't deserve that, right? I know just as much as that guy does or that gal,
Right.
right?
And I think it's different for women because, and this is kind of getting into some theory that I have, and that is that the language of business was written by men. Let's face it, you guys have been doing business a lot more than we have, as far as rights go and all that kind of stuff. And the language of business in a male form is very chest to chest. You got a guy disrespecting you, Ed, you're going to go chest to chest with him, like, hey, back off. I'm going to, it's going to be that kind of engagement. And the language of business for women is much more collaborative, much more creative, and honestly, I can't go chest to chest with my contractors, like, and so, it's about embracing what I have and what I am and understanding that as a woman, I have power. It's not that I don't have power. It's how I utilize that power. I mean, I have to go to my contractors and say, hey, I've got this problem here. How can you help me out? How can we solve this together? How can we, get to the end line on time in that budget and do this and employ, their masculine to come out and help, Men love to have solutions.
Oh, yeah.
I love them when they can come up with them and it can still work for me. Right. So, it is kind of an interesting dynamic with the masculine and the feminine. Yeah. And there are times when I've got to go chest to chest because that's the only language somebody is understanding with me, And,
the fact that you do that when it's out of character, if you're more of a collaborator, and, at the next, at that point of conflict, you're coming back at somebody saying, hey, I've had enough. I'm the boss. You're doing this and you're going to do it this way, my way, or whatever. Right. It's interesting. And I agree. And I'm not surprised that women tend to be more successful in investing, surely because of their inclination to collaborate, right? Because, the fact is that more than one brain is way smarter than one brain.
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of, people who have, a lot of women on their teams for that reason.
Yeah.
There's a nurturing that comes along with that, with the collaboration and, teamwork that, comes along with that. So Absolutely. It's really playing to your assets.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I'm curious about, and so I'm a, recovering technology guy, right? So, I think in terms of process, procedures, systems, things like that. And so I'm curious, as you're flipping properties and you're buying multifamily and, eventually setting up WREN, what are the systems that you were using to kind of keep it all straight and moving forward? Because it's a lot.
Wow, it is a lot. And you know what? It's a lot of growth along the way, Sure. Like I didn't come out thinking, oh, I need a system for this. Cause I'm not innately a systems person. I'm innately kind of visionary, let's just go do it. And, we'll figure out the paper trail behind us. But as things were growing, I was saying this to somebody the other day. I remember when I was first setting up my first CRM, right? My first management software, and it was called a spreadsheet.
Right. Well, hey, I'm all for keeping it simple.
Right. And that's how it was in the beginning, and then I've grown and my tools to systematize have gotten better and better along the way. And, and I'm just going to go back. It's because I value my time, because I wanted the freedoms. Right. And if I'm always working in my business, I'm not having that freedom. So having VAs, having systems in place, so that things can run on their own unless there's a hiccup. I think as a business owner, and I don't care what business you're in, you have to be an innate problem solver. I jokingly say my phone doesn't ring unless there's a problem on the other end of the line.
Right. Something's on fire. That's true.
Nobody calls me when everything is going great.
Right. That's so true.
That's just the way it is. and luckily I feel like I'm a really good problem solver and I've got a lot of ideas. And so that works, so I'm always, problem solving on the phone. But if that's the case, then all of the regular stuff for everything to run smoothly has to be in some kind of system, right? And there has to be,
there needs to.
Luckily with rentals, there's a system for, from the tenant level to the property management level to the owner level, right? That is pretty clearly defined, but you still have to, have your, what is it? Manage the managers, right? You still have to manage. They have to
and you and I are both Tony Robbins devotees, and and Keith Cunningham, who is someone I know that is a mentor of yours, and I consider him a mentor. I shook his hand once, but I don't know that he'd return my phone calls, but that's okay. I've read all his books, and the thing is that you've got to create operational leverage and work on your business, not have a job in your business if you're going to be successful. As someone who is the leader of a company, right?
Right. And, being a leader is no joke.
No, there's plenty of.
There's people to manage. There's assets to manage. There's systems to manage. It's something as your businesses grow, you take on more and more. Right. And luckily, there are mentors in our lives. I know that I'm constantly being mentored and coached by different people, depending on what the situation is, so that I can make that better, right?
Yeah.
Not only for myself, but for everybody that's on my team.
Right on.
That I can be clear when I'm talking, and hopefully.
Right. Yeah, that's it, right? That Tony Robbins talks about the value chain, right? And making sure that not only is the task or the thing that I need done as the person, in the process, but also communicating that to you, and then you communicating back to me. Yes, I understand it. Yes, I know what you need. Yes, I know when you need it, and, have that interaction. One thing that I'm huge on, and I know you are as well, is mentors. And so, I'm curious about, the best advice you've ever gotten and who gave it to you.
Oh my gosh, that's a really hard question. I've had a lot of different mentors, and they've had different impacts on me along the way.
Right.
I don't know that I could zero in on one. I'll tell you a couple different situations currently. And I go in and out of having mentors within my industry and outside my industry. I'll just say that. That's very conscious, by the way, because there's times when I need to have a mentor that's telling me how to run my business in the systems and everything within my industry. And there's times when I need somebody who helps me to think creatively, maybe outside my industry, as personal growth and as leadership growth. Right. Yep. So I do that. I will tell you, I have a thing where I theme my years. And, the Tony Robbins quote, your success is dependent on the amount of uncomfortable that you can take. Yep. I can't remember the exact quote. I'm sorry.
Discomfort. Yeah, you had it.
Yeah. So that year, when I would be faced with a choice, I would go with the most uncomfortable one.
Wow.
It was a tremendous year of growth. And I felt like it really just took me out of my comfort zone and really helped me to see how resilient I am and how resourceful I am. And it really helped me to build confidence in myself. And that was reflected in my business, right? So, whatever it is that you're working on, first of all, I say always have a mentor or coach, so that you're growing, either your business or personally, because leading people is no joke. And
humans are hard.
The bigger the projects get, the more people involved there are. Right. And so, and then, you surround yourself with those people that you can reach out to, and be sounding boards.
Yeah. So as a business leader, I have this theory that I'm continually proving out, which is that leaders are readers. And, these days, it doesn't necessarily mean like an actual physical book. It can be, your Kindle or an ebook or podcasts or videos on YouTube or whatever, audiobooks, whatever. And so I'm curious about a couple of things. First off, how do you consume information when you're trying to sharpen the saw, so to speak? And, I'm also curious if, who are you paying attention to these days in terms of, the kind of information that you're pulling in?
Right. Mostly books. I still really like books. I do Kindle, and stuff too, because I'm traveling a lot and I can't,
Yeah, you can't carry 4 books with you.
Can't take 4 books with me. I do listen to podcasts, but and audibles when I'm traveling, but it's been a little off these days because I've been so busy lately. But mostly it's books. And right now I'm reading a couple books, one on health and one on networking. It varies back and forth. And I think that it varies back and forth depending on how immersed in business I am. If I'm really immersed in business, it's really hard for me to pick up another business book and read it when I'm on my off time. So I kind of want something that's not related to business that is growing a different part of me. And if business is just running smoothly and I'm going along, then I like to deep dive back into business again. What I've been doing lately is studying other leaders, to be honest with you. I find it fascinating.
Interesting.
I did a deep dive with a mastermind on Steve Jobs recently. And, a fascinating man. How does a man who didn't have great rapport and people skills, but, not known for his delicate people skills.
Yeah, he was not a coddler.
Yeah, had a vision. And he was able to able to relate that vision to construct something so beautiful, right? To utilize everybody's creativity to construct something so beautiful, and how he was able to do that without having, great people skills, really, and what were his talents and how did he utilize that? And what were his weaknesses and how did he compensate for that? Right. So I like looking at, at leaders, especially leaders who have served a community, at a high level. I like looking at that. That's
my favorite. So, having been worked where I did, the stories, that the legends are all over the place. Right. And so my favorite one is Jobs allegedly had on his mirror, he had a sticky note that said, "Are you excited about what you're about to do today?" When he was brushing his teeth, he'd look at that. And that was his kind of guiding light of, he has to be passionate about what he's doing. And, you think about the things that he created, as I think he said in an interview, no one ever asked for the ATM, right? And he didn't invent the ATM, but he did invent the iPhone and the iPod and iTunes and podcasts and,
changed the way we live today.
Fundamentally change the way we live, right?
And was able to convey that vision, right? And that's amazing to me,
True.
Because I work with people all the time in conveying vision when I'm rehabbing or whatever. And let me tell you, a lot left for misunderstanding, even though you think you're conveying yourself really clear.
Right. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? And also the things that are written on this piece of paper that are the same as the words coming out of my mouth? Do you understand one or both of those? Yeah, I got it. And then you come back and you're like, nah, you didn't get it.
There's a guy in my mentoring program, and he owns a bunch of osteostrongs, right? And he was talking about his clients, and he was like, I just love my clients. I love them. And I could feel like he was genuine about this.
Right.
And I watched that to him during our break, and I go, thank you for conveying that to me, because I just still feel really curious about the people I work with.
Right. Yeah, there are good days and bad. Most of them are good, but yeah, there are a couple days there where I'm not curious.
Yeah,
that's a very nice way to put it. So let me ask you, Deborah. I mean, given all the things you've accomplished in a relatively short time, if you had to start over, what would you do differently?
Oh gosh, that's interesting. Because my skills have been built on each other, and I can kind of see that clearly. I think that I would plunge faster and deeper with mentors. A lot of the figuring it out on my own. Because prior to real estate, I was a solopreneur, right? And I think I had a little bit of a lone wolf syndrome, like I can do it all myself kind of thing.
Been there.
And, first of all, I don't think I realized the value that went in that it is if you're partnering with somebody who really knows what they're doing and what that does for you. I think I would have fostered those types of relationships and those types of mentors really early on to be able to leverage myself, even more.
Yeah.
So
figuring out your highest and best use is so important as someone who's, leading multiple companies. And, the fact is, I say this a lot, is that, if I walk into a conference room or hop on a Zoom call and I'm the smartest person on that call, we're all in a lot of trouble. Right. Because I know what my highest and best use is, and it's almost never what we're talking about on the, as a team. Right. So
there's a lot of people who dabble in real estate, they're in the corporate life and they're looking for a retirement plan, or they're just putting their money aside in real estate, and I think that's a great way to go. But when you're ready to, or if you're committed to, fostering a large portfolio, replacing your income as in a corporate job, I think it's a different mentality. And real estate is one of those things that you can be kind of lone wolf about.
Sure.
You don't.
A lot harder.
Yeah, it's a lot harder when you're fostering bigger portfolios, So learning to love those people. Really important.
Really important. Yeah, absolutely. So Deborah, when you're not talking about real estate, what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Oh my God.
Do you have any free time?
Sorry. My name is Deborah and I'm a real estate addict. That's not true. I like to travel, and now I'm traveling and accumulating real estate. One of my REN women ended up liquidating her assets in California during COVID and moving to Puerto Rico. And and she's gotten some incredible tax advantages there. And I went and visited her, and now her and I bought a multi-unit that we're making into a bed and breakfast. And that's one way of traveling. I also have a lot of family. I'm half Irish, so I have a lot of family in Ireland. So I like to travel to Ireland and see my family and travel with my kids, who actually don't have as much time to travel with mama because they're adults now and they're having their lives now, which is
they're adulting.
Yeah, they're adulting, or at least their version of it. And So I love travel. I love my husband and I really are big fans of comedy and music. So we go out to watch comedians and laugh a lot and enjoy music, enjoy musicians, and we get to do that. We put some things on our bucket lists around that now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we want to see a concert in the Red Rocks. Like I heard.
It's amazing.
Have you ever been?
I have not. Yeah.
So that's like on our bucket list. Like we're like, okay, we need to look at that concert schedule and, see somebody who we want to see. And I hear the acoustics there and it's just beautiful. Right. So like, we're putting some things on our bucket list that aren't necessarily like, European trip, but are something that like, we really enjoy.
Yeah. Something you're passionate about. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you live in the right part of the world for music and comedy, given that you live in the LA area. That's, there's a lot of talent and within, a few miles of where you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The summers are pretty busy.
I'll bet. So Deborah, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you again very much for your time and your insights and your experiences. If people want to learn more about your development business, or REN, your organization, what's the best way to reach you?
Sure. So REN, both online. So REN is the Women's Real Estate Network. Is the acronym is REN, that our little bird. I don't know. Wait, there we go. Our little bird. And it's REN Inspires. RENinspires.com. REN Inspires. Facebook, REN Inspires Instagram, REN Inspires Twitter. just Google REN Inspires and connect with us. On our website, we have an event schedule. So we have meetings via Zoom. Since COVID hit, We're not meeting locally. We've just gone on Zoom. And so we're having meetings via Zoom every month. And it's just a different woman sharing her business model with us every month. So we get
that's great.
And we get to talk to these women about their different business models, how they're financing it, all that kind of stuff. And then if you want to talk to me, go to DeborahRazo.com. And Deborah Razo, you can schedule a 15-minute call with me and I can see how I can help you. Like I mentioned, we have a mentoring program coming up. I think it starts August 7th. It's just a 12-week program that we do twice a year, mainly for wholesaling and flipping. So people that want to get into the business.
Right.
So connect. That'd be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, Deborah Razo, thank you so much. It's great to see you, my friend. And thank you for sharing all your experiences and dropping all those gold nuggets along the way today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our time together. Thank you.
Me too.
Oh, cool.
This has been the Real Estate Underground podcast, a Clark Street Capital presentation. Thanks for joining us. If you're enjoying the show, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends. If you'd like to learn more about Clark Street Capital and our upcoming projects, please join our investor club at clarkst.com/join. Until next time, happy investing.
This has been the Real Estate Underground. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us grow. Until next time, Undergrounders, remember your real estate journey begins with a simple step forward. Now get to it. Bye for now.